And Shinagogo, baby, what's good, guys? Yoku here, and how could you not love Tingyun? She's a great team player. I mean, honestly, bro, you would easily want her a part of your team, right? I mean, truth be told, I could marry Tingyun and always have. Now, what's that saying they say? Behind every great man is an even greater woman. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, gang. Tingyun might be that girl. She honestly might be deserving of the best support in the game. Introducing EO's complete guide to Tingyun. Going over Tingyun's kit, we're gonna easily see what makes her her. Her basic attack is going to deal lightning damage equal to about 50% of her attack to one single enemy. Of course, and per usual, this is going to be your skill point generator. And something cool about this, which we'll go over momentarily, the skill. This is pretty much what everybody gasses up. This is the money maker, right? The money shot. I don't know why I said that way, but I did. We're gonna let it rock. Now, Soothing Melody is going to grant any one ally with the ability to increase their attack by a certain percentage up to another percentage of Tingyun's attack. Now, I know that might get a little confusing, so I'm going to explain that in a much simpler way. All of this is going to apply and calculate from not only Tingyun's basic attack stat, but it's also going to take from the character that you are amplifying. Because I hate math, I'm not doing math in this immediate moment. Let's give a fine example. Himiko has the highest base attack in the game. Now, shout outs to Grim for doing the math for me. In order for Tingyun to give Himiko her max attack percentage buff from the skill alone, she would need 2,638 attack at E0. That would translate to giving Himiko the full 30% buff from Soothing Melody. That's just part of the skill. The skill honestly feels more like a symbiotic relationship between Tingyun and whoever you decide to buff her. After you buff them, then they're going to get the benediction effect. And when they perform the attack, at least once per turn, then they're going to apply an additional lightning damage equal to 24% of whatever their attack is for that one time. The skill lasts for 3 turns, so of course we're going to talk about certain combos, if you will, or rotations pertaining to skill, basic, skill, basic, skill. Next, we're going to talk about her ultimate, Amidst the Rejoicing Clouds, which is going to regenerate 50 energy for a single ally and increase their target's damage for 2 turns. Once again, another money shot, a breadwinner, if you will. Being able to buff your main DPS even higher than what they already are is huge, but she's not done yet. Next up, we have her talent, which is Violent Spark NATO. This talent is cool because it's going to fully inherit the target ally's offensive stats. Crits, crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, break effect, you name it. Whatever it is that they want to pull from, that's what this is going to pull from. But what this is going to do is it's going to create that symbiotic relationship between Tingyun and the partner. Because now when Tingyun attacks, she's also going to be using their attack stat, or at least 36% of that attack stat, depending on what your level is for the talent, in order to dish out her own damage from her basic attack. Lastly is going to be her technique, and her technique is actually pretty big. This is going to allow you to regenerate the 50 energy upon anything outside of battle. This is basically a free ultimate. Anytime you're outside of battle, you pop the technique and it's a free ultimate. You can use this in a way to start the game with max ult bar or max ultimate meter, and then just start the game off with an ultimate. I'm a big fan of RPGs, especially turn-based, so you know any type of setup or pre-gaming, I'm all about that. The big takeaway from Tingyun is that when she buffs the partner, she also gets buffed, and then when she gets buffed, she does a little bit more damage. So it won't make her a DPS by any means. However, the more attack stat you can pump out into any of your DPS characters that you're going to be buffing for Tingyun, and the more attack stat she has herself in order to take full advantage of those percentages, then she's going to be significantly helping you by doing skill, basic, skill again, basic, or if you feel like exhausting all of it, you can do basic 3 times and it's going to help you generate more skill points while also not having to keep buffing the ally. Symbiosis complete. Next, we're going over Tingyun's races. The first one that you'll unlock is called Nourish Joviality, which is going to increase her speed for 1 turn after using her skill. This is pretty big. This is going to be really good. This is going to allow you to use her skill and then immediately have her start acting again, so she can start generating skill points that much faster and keep up with the DPS. Next is going to be Neb Subdual, which is going to increase our basic attack damage by 40%. Similar to Natasha with her E6, where it increases her physical attack damage by another 40%. This is going to help Tingyun be able to dish out just a little bit more damage when she's buffing the ally to buff herself. The last ascension that you're going to be getting here is going to be Jubilant Passage, which is is going to immediately regenerate 5 energy at the start of her turn. This is a big one. This is going to keep her ultimate up almost at all times and significantly reduce how many attacks are going to be needed to do per turn to get that ultimate. Now, since we're currently coming to a point in the game where we can invest into the traces, we can actually start looking at the priority that I would recommend to leveling up these skills, talents, ultimates, etc. In a perfect world, if you already have Ascension 6, we're looking at it this way. I would prioritize getting the Nourished Joviality. I would then go into the Jubilant Passage, and finally I would go into the Neb Subdual. Now granted, increasing your basic attack damage by 40% isn't horrible, don't get me wrong, and if you want to go in the opposite order, then it's totally up to you. This is just a recommendation on priority because of what they allow Tingyun to do in her kit. Now, for the rest of her traces, I would personally go in this order. I would prioritize skill as my #1 priority to get to level 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, you name it. After that, I would come into the ultimate and prioritize that next. Finally, I would bump up her talent, and then last but not least, I guess if you really wanted to, I would go for the basic attack. It's not that it's not important, it's just that it's not as important to buff the basic attack before you buff all the other modifiers in order to help the team. Following the traces, we can go into her Eidolons, and E1 is going to be a beauty. After using her ultimate, the ally with Benediction is going to gain 20% increased speed for the 1 turn. This is basically taking the trace that I explained earlier and then giving that passive to the same ally who also received Benediction. You can use this during their turn or during her turn, but the way that I would personally use this is during the opponent's turn or during the enemy's turn. That way it gets me closer to stealing their turn. I can advance forward just a little bit to potentially break them before they even get to move. Next is going to be the E2. Gainfully gives, givingly gain. The ally that you just boosted with Benediction is going to regenerate 5 energy every single time they defeat an enemy. Now this only happens once per turn, so don't think that you're gonna give Seele this benefit and then Seele is going to knock someone out, go for resurgence, knock someone out, go for resurgence, and then she just recovered 20 energy from this ability alone. That'd be great, but I think it might actually be broken. E4 is going to be Jovial Versatility, and now the damage multiplier that increased before with Benediction is going to increase again by an extra 20%. Big boy damage. Lastly, E6 is going to take the 50 regenerated energy for any single ally and turn that into 60 regenerated energy for any single ally. At this point, you pop 2 of these and someone like Bronya's got her ultimate back immediately. Now, Tingyun is certainly not complete without her light cones, and trying to achieve that high 2000 base attack is going to be near impossible without a good light cone. Normally I would show you this on my character, but unfortunately the game does not love me when it comes to Harmony characters, and I have nothing in the tank. First 2 light cones that I'm going to talk about are pretty much going to be her best in slot, and you can choose which one is more appropriate for you. However, only one of these you can get for, relatively speaking, all players, and the other is from the Stellar Warp, which you just have to shoot for by chance. First on the list is going to be Carve the Moon. I personally love this light cone. I can't wait until I buy my battle pass and then slap this on my Bronya and then my Tingyun, or vice versa, because this is quite awesome. You would think that these abilities are random, but they're so good. The abilities on this light cone are so good that any one random effect is going to benefit you greatly. You're either going to get all allies increasing their attack by 20%, you're going to get all allies increasing their crit damage by 24%, or you're going to get all allies regeneration rate increasing by 12%. No one effect can stack again, so you're not going to get them in the same order. However, if I get attack and then crit damage and then regeneration rate, that makes it feel that much better. And a character like Seele, who pretty much keeps her turn for 4 to 8 cycles without actually taking up the turn, this is going to be huge, being able to keep this boost. Next is going to be the light cone Dance Gavin Dance. I mean, that's a band, one of my favorites, in fact.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's not the name of the light cone. It's called Dance Dance Dance, but from now on, you're on this channel, we call this light cone Dance Gavin Dance. Let's go. Whenever the wearer uses their ultimate, it's going to increase all allies' actions and advance them forward by 24%. This is nice. Just like I mentioned before, the best time to use a light cone's ability like this is going to be during the opponent's turn, obviously due to the effect of me being able to what? That's right, still turns. Thank you, boys. I knew you guys knew what I was talking about. You can, however, still use this immediately after you do your own action or have your own turn, and you're still going to receive the 20% advance for it that way. But I would still rather do this whenever I can see it clearly on the board that I am not coming up next. However, if I got a little bit of a boost, maybe if I had 1 or 2 more points in my action turn order, I would be way ahead of the enemy, and then I could break their toughness meter. Now, do keep in mind, as I said, this one you can't actually get guaranteed. This one is a stellar warp. You got to pull for this, boy. You got to get lucky, girl, and I don't have these. The next best option, in my opinion, is going to be Chorus. Why? Because you can superimpose this to level 5 for free. You, of course, are going to be pulling these, but they give you so many of the 3-star light cones that it's impossible to not have this light cone. After entering battle, you're going to increase the attack of all allies by 12%. You can't stack any other abilities like this, so you can't have Chorus on one and Chorus on another Harmony character, but it's okay because typically speaking, we're only carrying Chorus on one Harmony character. Now, I say this is the better option not only because it's free to get essentially and everyone should be able to superimpose this, but I also say this because it is the most straightforward effect you could even have on a light cone like this. There's no other stipulations, there's no other rules, there's no confusing Yu-Gi-Oh card text. It is what it is. Increase the attack percent. You stack this with all the other damage and attack increasing effects that Tingyun has in her kit alone, and you're easily buffing the best DPS in the game. Last but not least is going to be Past and Future. Now, I'm not super against this one, but I'm not the biggest fan of it either. It's viable, it's not horrible, and it is free. You can get this from Echoes of War, so Forgotten Hall store, and you get it for free through the mission reward. When the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action, i.e. the one that you probably just buffed, is going to deal an increased percent of damage for that one turn. In comparison to the other ones, this one only lasts for one turn, and it doesn't seem to have the same effects that could be beneficial to turn stealing or boosting your DPS to significant degrees like the others. I don't think Past and Future is bad. I don't think any light cone for her is going to be bad, but I do think that that would be the order of which ones I would consider best to least best. Yeah, that's way better. Pairing up the light cone, you're going to want to get some good relic sets, and this is honestly the easiest thing for Tingyun possible. She really only wants one. You can play around with some others if you feel like it, but to be fair, Musketeer of Wild Wheat is going to be the perfect set for her. Not only will the 4-piece help Tingyun with maximum benediction buffs, but it's also going to influence a clean rotation between using the skill and the basic attacks. It's also going to help her get just a bit more speed in order to produce those skill points in between. I really like this set on Tingyun. I think that going straight forward, simple and clean, that's the way with Tingyun, because everything that's going to help her get that buff, get as close to the high 2000 attack as possible, while also boosting her speed to a certain degree. Mwah, chef's kiss. Now, going over the main stats for the relics, you are really going to want to focus on just honestly 2 things. But anyway, HP and the gloves, right? Because that's the same thing. Helmet, gloves, HP, attack. You can't really control those, but you can look for some decent substats, and these are going to be your attack percent, your speed, and your crit stuff if you want that, right? Crit rate, crit damage, so on and so forth. The rest of the stuff really won't matter too much, but defense, HP, effect resistance, those are all going to help Tingyun's survivability. Break effect is one of the ones that I'm least concerned with when it comes to Tingyun, to be fair, simply because I'm not going to be using her to break enemies. I have Sushang for that. Now, on her body, while you might think, oh, I want crit rate, you really don't want crit rate, because her job is not to do the damage. Her job is to give the damage, and in return she gives more damage, she gets more damage, and now she can help you with those basic attacks. You're aiming for someone with attack percent. That's the main stat you want on your body piece right here, and then all the other substats can come into play afterwards. Or your boots, you can go for speed, but again, like I mentioned, if you're able to get that speed that you're looking for, the speed tier, through substats alone, then I would honestly say get some attack percent boots. While speed is important, I don't need to overload speed to the point where I can't get 3 or 4 turns per attack. That's something that I really want to push the narrative for, is that getting so much speed is only so important. There's a speed threshold you need to cross in order to attack 2 times per turn. There's another speed threshold to cross in order to attack 3 times per turn, or even 4 times per turn. And there are only so few characters who are able to do that. On my planar sphere, I don't want lightning. I am also looking for what? Aha, you guessed it, attack percent. And lastly, on my link rope, I don't have it, to be fair, but energy regeneration rate is 9 times out of 10 what I'm aiming for in order to help her build up that ultimate meter that much faster. If I can't get energy regeneration rate, that's okay too. I'm going for attack percent. Why? Because honestly, I want as much attack as possible so that when I boost somebody, I get even more boosted and we're all hitting for 99999 like this is Final Fantasy 3. You can assume that Space Sealing Station is going to be good for her, and it could be good for her, but Tingyun is not worried about buffing her attack so much that you pass the threshold that we've talked about earlier. Now, for whatever reason you're trying to build a maximum single targeting DPSing Tingyun, then by all means go for Space Sealing Station. But if your Tingyun is more of a team player, then you're obviously going to go for the Fleet of the Ageless. This two piece is going to increase her max HP for a little bit more survivability, but it's also going to increase her allies attack by 8%. All allies, in fact, not just one, not just two, but everybody on the field is going to get an attack percent increase as long as her speed reaches 120. And reaching that 120 speed is not going to be difficult at all because Tingyun is actually the second fastest character in the game, at least from a base speed perspective, starting at 112, which means you only need 8 points in speed to hit the 120 guaranteed every single time. And obviously going above and beyond is going to be great, but if you're only looking for the 120, well, there you go. Now, I have seen some folks experimenting with the sprightly Von Whack. I think I pronounced that correctly, but the sprightly Von Whack, right? This is going to increase her energy regeneration rate, which is okay. And again, once her speed reaches 120, it's going to advance her action forward by 40% immediately at the start of battle. The reason I don't like this is because of that last part. Tingyun is already fast enough that she's going to be starting first or second in the turn order anyway. So advancing her by 40% even more it's honestly just to buff up the character, right? Like, let's say that your Seele is faster and for whatever reason your Tingyun can't keep up, but if she had a 40% advance forward, then boom, she can do it. She can go ahead and buff Seele before Seele gets her turn, and now Seele can get her party started. Otherwise, starting more of a hyper carry, that's fine. But I can't say I recommend this over anything buffing everyone's attack percent or damage percent for the entire duration of the battle, whereas this is only immediately at the start of battle. It doesn't matter any other time outside of that. The other play on ornaments can be tested on or experimented with, if you will, and that just really comes up to you. I personally don't think that a lot of them benefit Tingyun in order for her to help the team, but I've been talking about the team so much and her being a team player. Let me go over team comps and explain her best position on the team. The first team, and something that you might have seen at the very start of Honkai Star Rail, this is going to be the hyper comp team, right? Where Tingyun is going to buff Seele, Bronya is going to buff Seele, and then you have some type of supportive unit, whether that be a shielder or healer, to then help carry the rest of the team so that they don't die. And while this is really good, I'm not the biggest fan of this, especially going into the more challenging content like Forgotten Hall, Memory of Chaos, because it's great, but we're just not at a position right now where we can hyper carry Seele to completely obliterate everything in the game without worrying about dying first. I'm sure there are some players who are up there, maybe they're whales, maybe they're not, maybe they're just really good at the game, and that's cool too. You could be that player. Let me know in the comments down below. But as of right now, I'm not that guy. And because of that, I would rather a more balanced team that allows Tingyun to buff up anyone she chooses while also not fearing for her life. The next team that I have in mind is actually going to benefit greatly from pulling on the Jing Yuan banner. In fact, this is the only banner that you actually have to pull on. First up is going to be your healer. I prefer Bailu because she can heal without needing to actually use her skill. You can use Luocha whenever he comes out, but if you don't have either of those characters, Natasha works here just okay. The role of the healer is to make sure that no one dies, and truth be told, you can actually get away with only Bailu or Luocha if you just happen to have them as your defensive support. This opens up the door for having a second DPS character focusing entirely on single target damage like Sushang or Heng. On the contrary, you could also have a significantly bulky Japard or Fire MC if you want to, and that could replace the healer slot here. But again, your main priority is keeping the team alive. So if you have a bulkier shield type character whose shield never goes away and they protect everyone or pulls aggro so no one else gets hit, then this is the spot for you. Going with my mega defense, I really want to use a second DPS. In fact, I want single target, so I'm going with Sushang or Heng if you happen to have them, but Sushang is on the banner, so I'm using Sushang. And in Sushang's case, this actually opens up the door for the break potential with the character, and I love this so much. She's not as skill point hungry as someone like Seele, which by the way was brought into question, but due to the fact that she is incredibly skill point hungry, it was really hard for me to find a solid way to keep the skill points up while also keeping the team alive and also having Tingyun buff Seele and buffing Sushang and buffing whoever else would need the buff, while also still doing everything else that I just said multiple times. So I've got Bailu, I've got Sushang, and then next up I'm going to actually have Tingyun. And why do I have Tingyun? Well, because she's here to get everyone's back. She's got everyone's back, bro. It's cool. Tingyun wants to be Jing Yuan's wife, and the last character is obviously Jing Yuan. Why? Because he's on the banner. Why would I not put him on the banner? Come on, bro. Like, I'm talking about the banner characters. Why would I not have Jing Yuan here? Jing Yuan absolutely loves Tingyun as a partner. She's going to buff him. She's going to help him. She's going to keep the skill points up. She's going to give him his ultimate, and this is going to allow Jing Yuan to abuse the fact that he has a JoJo stand, a persona, a summonable Pokemon, a legendary, if you will, in his back pocket to do whatever he wants with. This enables the heck out of him to do even more damage than what he already does. And then Lightning Lord is gonna backdoor and do it too. Now, something that's a bit more free to play, and what I was using during my entire time playing the game when I didn't have Bronya, at least on a particular account, I had Fire MC, I had Natasha, Tingyun, and I had Seele, and they all filled the same roles, right? Seele is going to be my main DPS. She can perform AoE functions due to her passive ability Resurgence. Tingyun is going to buff Seele and then keep the skill points fed. Natasha is also going to keep the skill points fed, and because I'm using Fire MC, which is my shielder, I theoretically never have to worry about using Natasha's skill unless an emergency happens, because she'll be able to build up the ultimate. In the event that I do need an emergency ultimate though, Tingyun is building up her ultimate incredibly fast, so I could, instead of giving Seele the ultimate 50%, I could give that 50% to Natasha, and now Natasha can heal the entire team. Fire MC is going to apply shields to everything that they do, and they're also going to be pulling aggro away from Seele and Tingyun, which is why I have them pushed to the back of the team. As I mentioned in every single one of my videos pertaining to these guides, the team section of the video is not for me to tell you this is the exact team you should be using, only use these characters. I like these characters, so I usually pick these characters. You can pick whatever characters you want. The main purpose of this section is to show you the concept behind the team building. Why am I placing these characters where they are? Who's buffing the team? Who's my DPS dealer or my damage dealer? Who is my AoE DPS dealer? Who's my single target DPS? Who is going to be my shield? Do I need a shield? Do I want a buffer? Do I want to include someone like Tingyun with Pela? Why or why not? All of these questions you should be asking yourself. But if you can't figure that out, or you need help answering those, feel free to ask down below in the comment section. We will all help you. I've somehow built a really helpful community, minus the 3 rotten eggs. At the end of the day, Tingyun is an amazing character that I absolutely fell in love with during the beta when I pulled her, and I love her even more now in the full release. She is a hyper carry support specializing in boosting the damage output all of your main DPS units. She's got a great kit that's going to allow her to generate that SP I was talking about earlier, using her basic attack for 2 to 3 turns, while also alternating in between her skills to boost your main DPS unit. Second fastest natural character currently in the game, which can help her achieve a speed stat, once again the 120, to attack multiple times per turn even easier. Just as a tip, be smart about who receives her ultimate regeneration. Obviously we're going to want to give it to the main DPS because big dick damage, but sometimes we might need our tank or healer, you know, to kind of keep the team alive. Do keep in mind that benediction skill consumption is going to double, if not triple, when you're using characters like Seele, Sushang, and Bronya all on the same team or paired up together, whatever the case may be. Any character that forces their turn in the same ways that they do, they're going to eat up benediction. And what do I mean by that? Real quick, what I mean is you have charges for your benediction. They're at the bottom of Tingyun's character icon. It's going to be 3 of them. Every time that character with benediction attacks, the little thing goes away, which means you are losing that boost or losing that buff, if you will, during that moment. Sushang is going to have something where she's going to do skill, ultimate, and then skill or basic attack, and that's going to use 2 of your 3. Seele is going to use skill or basic attack, resurgence, whatever she wants to do, and she's going to consume all of them in the same function. Bronya would do the same thing using her combat redeployment. All of this stuff is just to let you know, be mindful of what you're doing with Tingyun and be a smart player. Play patient. I say that all the time, guys. Play patient in the game. No need to rush through it. If your best friend's autoing through the game because he's got a level 99 Clara and you don't, it's okay. It's have fun with the game. If you're having fun and he's having fun, that is all that matters. Once you achieve Ascension 6, you really don't need to heavily invest into energy recharge due to the fact that you're gaining energy every single turn. But that is going to be the last of the complete Tingyun guide from your boy EO. Baby girl is wonderful as a character, and if you happen to pick up Tingyun or Eidolons or Eidolons of Tingyun, by all means, let me know in the comment section down below. I know you're gonna have a great time using this character. I know you're gonna love boosting her damage, right? And then boosting Jing Yuan's damage because of her boost is gonna be so nice. And I can't wait to see you guys send me clips on Twitter and Discord of Lightning Lord evaporating health bars. I want to see him decimating, devastatingly destroying every single enemy that you can come across. I want to see maximum Tingyun buffs with maximum Jing Yuan kills. Like the video, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Join the Discord because we're growing every day. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Follow me on twitch.tv/IYOKUU. Smell you later.